I never thought I'd be sitting here at 65, looking back on my life and wondering where I went wrong as a father. The calendar on my kitchen wall shows October 2024, leaves falling outside my window in suburban Connecticut, much like the way my family had fallen apart around me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. I built everything I have from nothing. My father was a factory worker who died when I was 17, leaving me to support my mother and younger sister. College wasn't an option then. Instead, I learned plumbing as an apprentice, working 14-hour days, 6 days a week. By 25, I had my own small business. By 30, I had 3 trucks and 5 employees. Eventually, Thompson Plumbing and Heating became one of the most respected service companies in Hartford County. My wife, Martha, was my high school sweetheart. We married young, too young, some said, but we made it work. She was beautiful, with auburn hair that caught the light and a smile that could warm the coldest room. When she got pregnant with Emma, our daughter, we were overjoyed. I still remember holding that tiny baby in my calloused hands, promising her silently that she would never know the hardships I'd faced. Martha managed our books while I handled the business. We saved every penny, bought a modest 3-bedroom house in West Hartford, and made sure Emma had everything she needed: dance lessons, summer camps, braces, and eventually, college tuition at Boston University. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable, and I was proud of what we'd built together. When Martha was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2010, my world shattered. I cut back my hours to take her to treatments, cooked meals I'd never attempted before, and learned to be both mother and father to Emma, who was then in high school. We fought that battle for 3 years before Martha passed. I held her hand as she took her last breath, promising her I'd take care of our daughter. After Martha died, Emma became even more precious to me. She was all I had left. I poured everything into making sure she succeeded. When she graduated from college and got a job at a marketing firm in New York City, I couldn't have been prouder. She met Ryan there, a financial analyst from a good family as she described them. They married in an elaborate ceremony that cost me nearly $45,000, money I gladly spent to see my daughter happy. When Emma announced they were expecting their first child, I was ecstatic. I immediately started a college fund for my grandchild and began planning my retirement. I was 62 then, and though I loved my work, I wanted time to be a grandfather. I began transitioning the business to Mike Peterson, my longest-serving employee, with a 5-year buyout plan that would provide me with steady income along with my retirement savings and Social Security. It was around this time that Emma and Ryan began suggesting I move closer to them in Westchester County. "Dad, that house is too big for you now," Emma would say during our Sunday phone calls. "And you shouldn't be climbing ladders to clean gutters at your age." I understood their concern, but I wasn't ready to leave the home where Martha and I had built our life together. The first real hint of trouble came during a visit to their home for Emma's 34th birthday. Ryan pulled me aside after dinner, a glass of expensive bourbon in his hand. "Jack, Emma and I have been talking," he said, his voice lowered though we were alone in his home office. "We're concerned about your finances." I remember feeling confused. My finances? What about them? "Well, you're getting older, and with the business transition and everything, we just want to make sure you're protected." He swirled his drink, not quite meeting my eyes. "I work with elderly clients all the time who get taken advantage of." "I'm not elderly, Ryan," I said, trying to keep the edge from my voice. "And Mike's been with me for 20 years. The buyout plan was reviewed by my attorney." Of course, he backpedaled. "We just thought maybe Emma should be added to your accounts. You know, as a precaution." I changed the subject, but the conversation stayed with me. It was the first time I'd felt like a burden rather than a father. During the next few months, the suggestions became more frequent. Emma would call, asking about my investments, whether I had updated my will, if I was managing okay on my own. Each conversation left me feeling diminished somehow, as if I were becoming less capable in their eyes. Then came Thanksgiving. Emma and Ryan invited me to their home, a sprawling 5-bedroom colonial with granite countertops and stainless steel appliances that Emma was constantly upgrading. Their son, my grandson Ethan, was 3 now, a bright, energetic boy who loved when I built wooden toys for him in my workshop. After Ethan went to bed, Emma brought out a folder filled with papers. "Dad, we need to talk about something important," she said, her voice taking on a tone I recognized from her teenage years when she wanted something expensive. "What's that, sweetheart?" I asked, though I already felt a knot forming in my stomach. "Ryan and I have been looking at some options for you," she said, sliding a brochure across the table. "It's a retirement community in Danbury. It's really nice, they have activities, medical staff on site, and you'd be only 20 minutes from us." I stared at the glossy pamphlet showing smiling seniors playing shuffleboard. "Emma, I'm not ready for a place like this. I'm still working part-time, and my house is paid off." Ryan cleared his throat. "Jack, the thing is, these places have waiting lists. We need to get you on one now, before you need it." "And how exactly would I pay for this?" I asked, noting the prices listed in small print on the back page. They exchanged a look that sent a chill through me. "Well," Emma said, "that's the other thing we wanted to discuss. The house has appreciated significantly. If you sold it." "I'm not selling my house," I said firmly. Emma sighed. "Dad, be reasonable. It's just you rattling around in that place. And with the proceeds from the sale and your retirement savings, you could live comfortably at Sunnyvale." "Sunnyvale," I repeated, feeling as though I'd stepped into some alternate reality where my daughter was making decisions for me. "No, Emma. This isn't happening." "Dad," she began, but I cut her off. "No. This is still my life, and I'm perfectly capable of making my own decisions." The drive home that night was long and quiet. For the first time, I felt a distance between my daughter and me that had nothing to do with the miles between our homes. December arrived with a heavy snowfall that blanketed my neighborhood in white. I was shoveling my driveway when I felt a sharp pain in my chest. Stupidly, I ignored it and finished the job. By evening, the pain was worse, and my left arm felt numb. Finally acknowledging what was happening, I called 911. I spent 3 days in the hospital after a mild heart attack. The doctors said I was lucky, no significant damage to my heart muscle. Emma came to see me, fussing over my pillows and interrogating my doctors about medication and follow-up care. When it was time for me to be discharged, she insisted I come stay with them. "Just for a few weeks, Dad," she said, her tone brooking no argument. "Until you're back on your feet." Too tired to argue, I agreed. My neighbor Tom promised to check on my house and bring my mail. Those few weeks at Emma and Ryan's stretched into January. "I was assigned the guest room on the first floor, so you don't have to climb stairs," Emma explained. They hired a home health aide to check on me during the day while they were at work, despite my protests that I didn't need one. One afternoon, I overheard Emma and Ryan talking in the kitchen while I was supposed to be napping. "Did you speak to the lawyer?" Ryan asked. "Yes," Emma replied, her voice lowered. "He says we need to get Dad to sign a power of attorney. Otherwise, we can't access his accounts or make decisions if his condition worsens." "And the house?" "Once we have POA, we can handle that too. The market is hot right now, we could probably get $450,000 for it." I felt as though I'd been punched in the stomach. My own daughter was plotting to take control of everything I'd worked for. And for what? So they could upgrade their already luxurious lifestyle? Buy a vacation home? Put my grandson in private school? I lay there, heart pounding, as they continued discussing my assets as if they were already theirs. I thought of Martha, of how hard we'd worked, of the legacy I wanted to leave for Ethan. Not like this. Not stripped away before I was even gone. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what I'd heard, trying to reconcile it with the daughter I thought I knew. Had I spoiled her too much? Had I failed to teach her the value of hard work and respect? Or had Ryan's influence changed her? It didn't matter now. What mattered was protecting myself and what Martha and I had built. The next morning, I told Emma I needed to go home to get some personal items. She insisted on driving me, hovering as I packed a small bag. I made sure to grab my laptop, checkbook, and the thumb drive where I kept important documents. "I'll be back tomorrow," she promised as she left. "The health aide will come by in the morning." As soon as her car disappeared down the street, I called Tom. "I need a favor," I said. "Can you drive me to my bank? It's important." Tom, a retired postal worker who'd been my neighbor for 15 years, didn't ask questions. He picked me up 30 minutes later. At the bank, I withdrew $10,000 in cash, enough to tide me over, and placed my most valuable documents in a safe deposit box that only I could access. Then I called my attorney, Howard Levin, who had handled my business contracts for decades. "Jack, what's going on?" Howard asked when I explained what I'd overheard. "I need to protect myself, Howard. From my own daughter." He was silent for a moment. "Come to my office. Now." Over the next few hours, Howard helped me create a plan. First, we revoked any previous powers of attorney I had created naming Emma as my agent. Then we drafted a new one naming Howard and his partner as my financial and healthcare proxies. We updated my will, removing Emma as executor and instead naming a trust with Howard as trustee. "This is temporary," Howard assured me, "until we figure out what's really going on. But it protects you in the meantime." Next, we called Mike Peterson about the business buyout. "Can we accelerate the timeline?" I asked him. Mike didn't hesitate. "Jack, you gave me my start. Just tell me what you need." We restructured the deal so that Mike would complete the purchase immediately, with payments spread over 10 years. This gave me a lump sum upfront while still ensuring long-term income. Howard also helped me open new accounts at a different bank, transferring the majority of my funds there. By the time I returned home, it was late afternoon. I changed the locks, something Martha had insisted we do periodically for security, and then sat down at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, exhausted but resolute. My phone rang constantly. First Emma, then Ryan, then Emma again. I let it go to voicemail. Emma's messages started concerned, then became angry. "Dad, where are you? The health aide said you weren't home. Call me back immediately. Dad, I'm worried sick. If you don't call me in the next hour, I'm calling the police. Dad, what the hell? Ryan drove by and saw your lights on. Why aren't you answering the door or your phone? This is exactly why we're concerned about your decision making." Finally, around 8 p.m., I texted her, "I'm fine. Need some time alone. We'll call tomorrow." She called immediately. This time, I answered. "Dad. What is going on?" Her voice was shrill with a mixture of worry and anger. "I'm home, Emma. I'm fine. I just needed to be in my own space. You can't just leave like that. You had a heart attack. Do you have any idea how worried we've been?" "I appreciate your concern," I said, keeping my voice steady. "But I'm a grown man who had a mild heart attack over a month ago. The doctors cleared me. I'm taking my medication. I'm fine." "Well, you're clearly not fine if you're making impulsive decisions like this." "Emma," I said, feeling suddenly very tired. "I'm going to bed now. We can talk tomorrow." I hung up before she could respond. The next day, Emma and Ryan showed up at my door unannounced. I was in my workshop, building a toy train for Ethan, when I heard their car in the driveway. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation. Emma rushed in as soon as I opened the door. "Dad, what's going on with you? Why did you change the locks?" I gestured toward the living room. "Let's sit down and talk." Ryan followed, his face a mask of concern that didn't reach his eyes. They sat together on the sofa while I took my recliner, Martha's gift for my 60th birthday. "I changed the locks because it was time," I said calmly. "The old ones were wearing out." "And you couldn't tell us?" Emma demanded. "We were worried sick." "I'm sorry you were worried," I said, meaning it. Despite everything, I never wanted to cause my daughter pain. But I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. Being home has been good for me. Ryan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Jack, we understand you want your independence. But after a health scare like this, it's normal for family to step in and help with decisions." "What decisions did you have in mind, Ryan?" I asked, looking him directly in the eye. He hesitated, glancing at Emma. "Well, for example, this house. It's a lot to maintain." "My house is maintained just fine," I interrupted. "I have a service for the heavy yard work, and I'm perfectly capable of handling the rest." "Dad," Emma said, her voice softening into the tone she'd used as a teenager when asking for money, "we're just thinking about your future. What if you had fallen during the snowstorm? What if the heart attack had been worse? Then I would have handled it, just like I've handled everything else in my life." I took a deep breath. "Emma, Ryan, I appreciate that you're concerned. But I need to be clear, I am not selling my house. I am not moving to Sunnyvale or any other facility. And I am not signing a power of attorney that gives you control over my finances." The shock on their faces would have been comical if the situation weren't so painful. "How did you," Emma began, then stopped herself. "How did I know what you've been planning?" I finished for her. "I overheard you discussing selling my house, accessing my accounts." Ryan's face flushed. "Jack, it's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I said, my voice hard now. "You've been planning to take control of everything I've worked for my entire life. Without my consent." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Dad, we were just trying to protect you." "Protect me? Or help yourselves to what your mother and I built?" Ryan stood up, his face reddening. "That's unfair, Jack. We've been nothing but supportive." "Supportive?" I laughed without humor. "Was it supportive when you discussed selling my house behind my back? Or when you called your lawyer about getting power of attorney over me? Tell me, Ryan, what were your plans for the $450,000 you thought you'd get from my home?" Emma was crying openly now. "Dad, please. You're making this sound terrible." "Because it is terrible, Emma." I felt a deep sadness settle over me. "I never taught you to be this person." "What have you done?" Ryan asked, his voice suddenly wary. "What I needed to do to protect myself. I've changed my accounts, updated my legal documents, and accelerated the sale of my business to Mike. Howard Levin is now my power of attorney, not either of you." Emma gasped. "You can't do that." "I already have." I stood up, signaling that the conversation was over. "Now, I think you should leave. Both of you. I need time to think about where we go from here." Ryan grabbed Emma's arm. "Come on, Emma. Your father has made his position clear." At the door, Emma turned back, tears streaming down her face. "Dad, please. We can work this out." I felt my resolve weakening. She was still my little girl, somewhere underneath it all. "We'll talk," I said. "But not today." After they left, I sat in my workshop for hours, running my hands over the half-finished train I was making for Ethan. I wondered if I'd ever give it to him, or if this rift I'd opened would be permanent. The next few weeks were quiet. Emma called every few days, leaving voicemails that ranged from apologetic to defensive. I listened to each one but wasn't ready to respond. I focused instead on my health, following my doctor's recommendations for diet and exercise, attending cardiac rehab sessions, and even joining a support group for heart attack survivors at the community center. It was at one of these sessions that I met Diane, a 60-year-old former teacher who'd had a heart attack 6 months earlier. She had a no-nonsense attitude and a laugh that reminded me it was possible to find joy again. We started having coffee after our sessions, talking about books, politics, and eventually, our families. My son wanted me to move in with him after my heart attack, she told me one day. I love him dearly, but I'd rather stick pins in my eyes than live with him and his 3 teenagers. I found myself telling her about Emma and Ryan, about their betrayal and my response. I expected judgment after all, what kind of father cuts off his only child? But instead, she nodded understanding. My sister went through something similar with her son, Diane said. He started managing her money to help, and before she knew it, he'd borrowed nearly $100,000 for his failing business. Family financial abuse is more common than people think, especially against aging parents. Her words gave me the vocabulary for what had happened: financial abuse. It was hard to apply that term to my own situation, to my own daughter, but it fit. The recognition didn't ease the pain, but it helped me understand that I wasn't overreacting. In March, I received a formal letter from an attorney representing Emma and Ryan. It suggested that my recent actions demonstrated diminished capacity and requested that I submit to a neuropsychological evaluation. If I refused, they would pursue other legal remedies to ensure my well-being. I handed the letter to Howard, who scoffed. "They're fishing. You've had a complete physical since your heart attack, including cognitive screening. You're fine, and we have the documentation to prove it." "Can they force this?" I asked. "They can try," Howard said grimly. "But they won't succeed. Jack, this is about money, not your welfare. If they were truly concerned about your health, they wouldn't be threatening legal action." Howard drafted a response, outlining my perfect legal capacity and warning against further attempts to interfere with my autonomy. He included statements from my doctors confirming my cognitive health and decision-making capacity. "They're hoping you'll cave to avoid conflict," Howard explained. "Stand firm." 2 days later, Emma called. "Dad, please," she said when I finally answered. "This has gone too far. We never meant for me to find out," I finished for her. "Emma, I've spent my life working to give you everything. Your mother and I sacrificed so you could have opportunities we never had. And this is how you repay that. By trying to take control of what little I have left." "It wasn't like that," she insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. "Then what was it like? Explain it to me." She was silent for so long I thought she might have hung up. "Ryan said it made financial sense," she finally admitted. "He said with your health issues, we needed to protect your assets, our inheritance, before you made poor decisions or needed expensive care that would drain everything." The blunt admission of entitlement took my breath away. "My assets are not your inheritance yet, Emma. I'm still very much alive." "I know, Dad. I'm sorry." "Ryan, he can be persuasive when it comes to financial matters." "This isn't just about Ryan," I said, though it would have been easier to blame him entirely. "You agreed to this. You participated." "I was worried about you," she said weakly. "No, Emma. You were worried about the money." I heard her intake of breath. "That's not fair." "I think it's exactly fair. Now, I need to know, are you going to pursue this legal nonsense about my mental capacity?" There was a pause. "No," she finally said. "I'll tell Ryan to drop it." "Good. And Emma? I need time. Don't call for a while." April arrived with spring rains that washed away the last of winter's grip on Connecticut. I spent more time with Diane, whose friendship had become a lifeline during these difficult months. We visited museums in Hartford, tried new restaurants, and even took a weekend trip to Cape Cod. For the first time since Martha died, I felt the possibility of companionship beyond friendship, though neither of us was ready to name it yet. I missed Ethan terribly. I'd missed his 4th birthday in February, sending a gift card instead of the handmade toys I usually crafted for him. I wondered what Emma had told him about my absence, whether he asked about me, whether I was becoming a fading memory in his young mind. In May, I received a text message from an unknown number. "Grandpa, it's Ethan. Mommy is letting me use her old phone for games. I miss you." Attached was a crude drawing of what appeared to be 2 stick figures, one tall, one short, holding hands. I stared at the message for a long time, tears blurring my vision. Had Emma actually given her 4-year-old a phone to contact me? Or was this her way of reaching out, of using Ethan to bridge the gap she couldn't cross directly? Either way, I couldn't ignore it. "I miss you too, buddy," I typed back. "I love the picture." "Did you draw that?" "Yes," came the immediate reply. "It's you and me. When can I see you?" My heart constricted. Soon, I promised, though I had no idea if I could keep that promise. "Be good for your mom and dad." "I will. Love you infinity." "Love you infinity +1, I responded, our old game. I sat on my back porch that evening, watching the sunset and thinking about Ethan's message. Was it time to rebuild the bridge I'd burned? And if so, how could I do it while protecting myself? The next day, I called Howard. "I want to see my grandson," I told him. "But I need guardrails in place first." Howard suggested a family trust for Ethan that couldn't be accessed by Emma or Ryan. "You can fund it directly for his education and future needs," he explained. "They can't touch it, and neither can any future creditors if they have financial troubles." We set it up that week, transferring a significant portion of my savings into the irrevocable trust. I named Howard and his partner as trustees until Ethan turned 25. Then I called Emma. "I want to see Ethan," I said when she answered, skipping any preamble. She was quiet for a moment. "He misses you," she finally said. "We all do. I've missed him too." I took a deep breath. "Emma, I'm not ready to pretend nothing happened. But I don't want to punish Ethan for adult conflicts." "What are you suggesting?" "Saturday mornings. I could pick him up, take him for breakfast, spend a few hours with him. Just us." "Okay," she agreed quickly, as if afraid I might change my mind. "This Saturday?" "Yes." "And Emma?" "This is between me and Ethan. I won't be coming inside or seeing Ryan." "I understand," she said softly. That Saturday, I arrived at their house at 9 a.m. sharp. Emma brought Ethan out to my car, his small hand engulfed in hers. He looked uncertain until he saw me, then broke into a run. "Grandpa!" I knelt down and caught him in my arms, breathing in the scent of his shampoo and feeling the solid warmth of his little body against mine. "Hey, buddy," I said, my voice thick. "Ready for pancakes?" He nodded enthusiastically. I helped him into the booster seat I'd installed in my back seat, carefully buckling him in. Emma stood awkwardly by the car. "I'll have him back by noon," I told her. She nodded. "Thank you," she said, and I wasn't sure what she was thanking me for bringing him back. Seeing him at all? Keeping our conflict from touching him? Perhaps all of it. Ethan and I established a new routine. Every Saturday morning, I'd pick him up for breakfast and an activity, the children's museum, the park, my workshop where I taught him to sand wood and recognize different tools. We never spoke about the tension between me and his parents. To him, this was simply special time with Grandpa. By July, my health had improved significantly. My doctor was pleased with my recovery, and cardiac rehab had made me stronger than I'd been in years. Diane and I had grown closer, our relationship deepening into something neither of us had expected to find at this stage of life. One warm evening, as we sat on my porch swing sharing a bottle of wine, she asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Will you ever fully reconcile with Emma?" I sighed, watching fireflies blink in the gathering dusk. "I don't know. Some trust, once broken, can't be repaired." "But she's your only child," Diane said gently. "And you love her." "I do," I admitted. "But love and trust aren't the same thing." "No," she agreed. "They're not. But sometimes love can build a bridge where trust once stood." The metaphor stayed with me. A bridge, not a replacement for what was lost, but a new way forward. In August, Emma texted me, "Dad, can we talk? Just us?" We met at a coffee shop halfway between our homes. She looked tired, with dark circles under eyes that reminded me so much of Martha's. We ordered and sat at a corner table, the awkwardness between us palpable. "How are you?" she asked. "Good," I said. "Better than I've been in a long time, actually." She nodded, fidgeting with her cup. "Dad, I'm sorry. Truly sorry. What I did, was wrong." I stayed silent, waiting. "Ryan and I." She hesitated. "We're having problems. He's been making some questionable investment decisions. We're in debt." She looked up at me. "I'm not telling you this to ask for money. I just want you to understand that I see things differently now. I understand what it means to work for something, to build it, and to have someone try to take it from you." "What are you going to do?" I asked. She squared her shoulders, looking more like the daughter I'd raised. "I've gone back to work full-time. I'm meeting with a financial advisor next week, one I chose, not Ryan. I'm taking control of our situation." I felt a flicker of pride through my lingering hurt. "That's good, Emma. I don't expect you to forgive me," she continued. "But I want you to know that I understand now what I nearly threw away, not just your money, but your trust, our relationship, everything you and Mom built." I thought about what Diane had said about building bridges. "I'm not ready to pretend this never happened," I said carefully. "But I'm willing to try to move forward." Relief washed over her face. "That's all I'm asking for. A chance." We talked for nearly 2 hours, more honestly than we had in years. She told me about her marriage troubles, how Ryan's obsession with appearances and status had created a lifestyle they couldn't afford. I shared stories about Martha that Emma had never heard, about our early struggles and how we'd overcome them together. As fall approached, our relationship began its slow, tentative rebuild. Emma started coming with Ethan for our Saturday outings occasionally. She asked for my advice about handling their financial problems, listening in a way she hadn't since she was a teenager. I kept my distance from Ryan, who seemed to understand that his presence would only hinder this fragile reconciliation. In October, on the anniversary of Martha's death, Emma joined me at the cemetery. We stood together before the simple headstone, laying down fresh flowers. "Mom would be proud of you," Emma said suddenly. "For standing up for yourself. For not letting us steamroll you." I looked at her in surprise. "You think so?" She nodded. "She always said you worked too hard for everyone else and not enough for yourself." Emma smiled sadly. "She told me once, your father would give away his last dollar if he thought we needed it. She worried about that, about you not protecting yourself." "She never told me that," I said, thinking of all the conversations Martha and I never got to have. "She loved how generous you were," Emma continued. "But she wanted you to value yourself as much as you valued everyone else." As we walked back to the car, Emma hesitated. "Dad, there's something else I need to tell you. Ryan and I, we're separating."
I've moved into an apartment with Ethan.
I stopped, turning to face her.
Are you okay? She nodded. It's been coming for a while.
What happened with you? It opened my eyes to a lot of things.
Ryan isn't the man I thought he was.
I'm sorry, I said, meaning it.
Despite everything, I'd never wanted my daughter to be unhappy.
Don't be.
I'm not.
She squared her shoulders. I'm figuring out who I am without him. It's scary, but it's also freeing. That night, I sat in my workshop, running my hands over the wooden train I'd finished months ago but never given to Ethan. Tomorrow, I decided, I would give it to him.
It was time. As winter approached, Emma and Ethan settled into their new life.
She'd found a better job closer to home and was slowly rebuilding her finances. Diane had become a regular presence at our Saturday outings, her warmth and wit fitting seamlessly into our small family.
On Thanksgiving, I hosted dinner at my house. Emma, Ethan, Diane, and Tom and his wife from next door.
As I looked around the table at these people who had stood by me through one of the most difficult years of my life, I felt a profound sense of gratitude.
I'd like to make a toast, I said, raising my glass. To family, not just the one we're born into, but the one we choose and build every day through love, respect, and honesty. Emma's eyes met mine across the table, filled with understanding and the promise of a new beginning.
Not perfect, not the same as before, but genuine and built on a foundation of hard-earned wisdom. Later, as we washed dishes side by side, Emma nudged my shoulder.
Dad, I found a box of Mom's old recipes while I was moving. I thought maybe we could cook some of them together sometime. Teach Ethan about his grandmother.
I'd like that, I said, feeling the bridge between us strengthen just a little more.
I don't know what the future holds for Emma and me.
Trust, once broken, rebuilds slowly like a house after a storm, plank by careful plank. But I've learned some valuable lessons this year, that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, that boundaries are necessary even with those you love most, and that sometimes the greatest act of parental love is teaching your child that actions have consequences. Martha would indeed be proud, not just of me for protecting what we built, but of Emma for finding her way back to the values we tried to instill in her. And as for me, at 66, I discovered that life still holds surprises, like finding new love with Diane, rebuilding relationships I thought were lost, and learning that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. I still have the house that Martha and I made into a home. I still have my health and my dignity. I have a grandson who runs to me with open arms every Saturday morning. And I have a daughter who is finding her way back, not to what she tried to take, but to who she was always meant to be. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.